Mr. Alfie Pollitt.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diane Turner. I'm the curator of the Charles L. Blockson Afro-American collection. Welcome. I know it's Black History Month, but we do Black History 365, but it's 66 this year, right? I was just informed this morning by Dr. Kenneth Scott, so he corrected me. But I'm very delighted to have this program here today with Alfie Pollitt and friends, who he's going to introduce.
So we're having a panel discussion today, and the title is Under Our Watch. So I was blessed to, I was asked by the Charles Blockson collection to select some folk that we can talk about, stuff that our sojourn here on this planet in Philadelphia, metropolitan Philadelphia area, what we've experienced during our stay here. And so it's under our watch. So I'd like to introduce Margaret Jackson. And Gus Lacy Jr.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Okay. So, we've all known each other for a long time, okay? We're contemporaries. I'm the old head, slightly, but we all have history, and it's a good thing. So, I'm going to go ladies first. Question. Where were you born, and in what Philadelphia neighborhood were you raised in as a youth?
Good afternoon, everyone, again. I was born in a beautiful bedroom community in 1946 in West Philadelphia. It's designated now as the Haddington community, and I'd like to just briefly paint a picture of how it was in the late 40s and early 50s during my formative years. Most of the streets were lined with beautiful sycamore trees. And unfortunately, in the middle 50s, many of those beautiful sycamore trees were felled due to torrential rainstorms that we had. It was during a time when you could go anywhere in your community as well as your local neighborhood and leave your door open. I'm sure all of you can relate to that. And of course, your neighbors were actually an extension of your nuclear family. We were reared to really revere our elders and be mindful of their folk ways and mores. And it was a beautiful time. Post-World War II. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, first of all, may peace be with you all, and good afternoon. I also was born in West Philadelphia. We were the second black family on our street. During that time, my parents were originally from South Philadelphia, but it was a migration after people were coming home from the war, buying different houses and moving into West Philadelphia. And there was somewhat of a white flight going on during that time. We had a nice neighborhood, lawns on the street, and our neighborhood was actually a neighborhood. I'm gonna take a leap here. The women in our community were actually the police. If Miss Mabel caught you doing something, you immediately got chastised because she had permission to do that. And she would take you home to your mother, and then you got chastised again. And then the dreaded words, wait till your father comes home. So that was the neighborhood. Now, sorry to say it's become a hood because there are no more neighbors.
Mm.
Uh, Still, I mean, I went to a lot of my roots were in South Philadelphia. A lot of my family basically from South Philadelphia, but I went to the Christian Street Y, which I have to give it a plug, which is the first African-American YMCA in the country. Played ball there, learned to swim, did a lot of things. So I was back and forth during my early youth from South Philadelphia to West Philadelphia. Good upbringing. I mean, we played, I can remember when the girls jumped double dutch, played hopscotch. Yes. I mean, we played in the street. Matter of fact, my mother said, okay, it's time for you to get out the house. You need to go play. And we played wall ball, half ball, stick ball, dead block, dodgeball. And you knew when the street light came on, you better be home. So that paints somewhat of a picture of what that neighborhood was like then in the late 40s, early 50s, through the 50s, as a matter of fact. And that's just a brief synopsis. I could go on and on. So I'll turn it back over to Alfie.
Okay. So, Margaret, did you grow up in a household with a mother and father? And do you have siblings? And if so, how many? Order: oldest, middle, youngest. Do you fit in?
Yes, I grew up in a household with my mother and my dad. Unfortunately, my father passed away in 1955. My mother raised 3 all by herself. She went to work every day. We were well reared with the support of extended family. And when I say support, not financial support, but emotional support. I am the middle child. I have a sister 3 years older and a brother 4 years younger. And we're still very, very close. My mother never remarried. And it was a good time.
Wendy, would you, well, Gus Lacy, his nickname is Wendy. When I first met him, I met him as Wendy, but he's Gus Lacy Jr. So, question number 2, did you grow up in a household, mother and father? How many siblings, and what order did you fit in?
I grew up in a household with both parents. I'm the oldest of 3. I have a younger brother, Craig,
Mm-hmm.
and my baby sister, April.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to piggyback off of Margaret for a moment. Also, we have a large extended family where how we were raised was to call my mother and father's friends ma'am, sir, and if you were really close, you were aunt and uncle. You were aunt and uncle. So we had quite an extended family because my parents entertained at home a lot. I need to say this. My grandmother, she raised all 5 of her children coming up from the South by running a speakeasy.
Okay.
She ran a speakeasy mainly Thursday through Sunday. She also rented rooms to jazz musicians that would come in for the weekend from out of town. And my father had this dream. I remember him telling my grandmother, one day I'm going to make this legal. One day I'm going to make this legal. And that later on became his legacy. That was his legacy. We were raised with manners, respect, a work ethic. Short story, short anecdote. I remember we all had chores in the morning. Either we took turns, my brother and I, because my sister's like 10 years younger. And my brother might have the bathroom, or I'd have the kitchen, and you scrub it down, and my mother come and inspect it. I remember I was going to the store, and I saw the girls in the middle of the street talking about they were counting this change, and they said, "Well, how much did you get for allowance?" And I was scratching my head. Allowance? What's allowance? So I said, "This is free money." So I turned. I made a U-turn and went back home. I asked my mother. I said, "Mom, where's my allowance?" And she said, "Well, wait till your father comes home. You need to ask him that." And I did. I waited because I wanted some of this allowance stuff. My father came home. I said, "Dad, what about this allowance?" And he very graphically said, "Darn it." He said, "Wait here, I'll be right back." And he came back in about a half an hour. He took me out to the trunk of his car, opened it up, and brought out a shoe shine box with black, I'll never forget this, black, brown, neutral, 2 brushes, and 2 flannel rags. Took me to 52nd and Walloosin. Said, "You start here. Start here, work your way down to Market Street." And I came home with a lot of dimes. I mean, he said, but always it was an addendum to that, and you better give your mother something. Of course, me always having a smart mouth, I said, well, she's not shining shoes. He said, what did I say? Give your mother something. So, like I'm saying, there was a lot of the core values that I grew up with came from a combination of both my parents, because my mother was a piano teacher. My father, he never graduated from high school, but he's probably the smartest man I've ever met in my life. My mother's side of the family were educated, and as I said earlier, my father's side of the family were basically educated in the street. So I came up with a mixed bag of what I call a very good education. I had a formal education at home, and I had a street education going between both nanas. I could read, well, seriously, my maternal grandmother, I could read and write before I went to school. That's how much time she spent with me. So I'm going to cut that loose right now and turn it back over to you, Alfie, because we could talk about it later over the phone.
Okay. So could you just mention who your father was and what the black business is? He's part of black.
Okay. Well, I'll start from the beginning. My father's name is Gus Mr. Silk Lacy. He got the name Mr. Silk because he sold ladies' lingerie out the trunk of his car. He named his club Third Base because he did play third base in the Negro League. He wasn't a starter, but he played in the Negro League. My father was also president of the West Philadelphia branch of the NAACP, founder along with Stanley Branch, Cecil Moore, of what was the Black Coalition.
Right.
I remember going with Cecil Moore, my father, to the '63 March in Washington. And that was an adventure in itself. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot at an early age by being in the company of the people that my father kept company with. I have pictures. Billy Eckstein was my father's role model. It was his idol. And it did come to pass. I have pictures of Billy Eckstein in the kitchen of Mr. Silks. My father was he was a very well-rounded man. He did so many things in the field of entertainment, politics, and the nightclub business. I could do a whole show on my father. So,
Sure.
on that note, Alfie, I'm going to give it back to you.
Okay. So, Margaret, we met back in the 60s, right? And I met you through a brother named Jerry Satchel, who had a Muslim name, Suleiman Isa Ali. And see, during that time, I was, I'm from Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. There's a Bryn Mawr right there, Dr. Yvonne King right there. So, but my parents, on my father's side of the family, my father was from South Philly, too. And so our cousins lived at Redfield and Thompson, and right near 60th and Thompson. So we would go there as children, and so like from real young, and so we got to meet the folks in the neighborhood, met the bougie people, met the toasty people, met the gangs, and I met the Moon Gang way back, and been friends ever since then. And I know Margaret, she's, I got another question a little later, but I met you through Jerry Satchel. So would you elaborate a little bit?
Well, Alfie, I'm going to take you back a bit further. I
Okay.
met you actually in the early 60s at
Uh-huh.
Carol Williamson's house on 61st Street.
Okay.
She was having her white shirt party,
Yeah.
as I recall. Everyone had to wear a white shirt. And that particular Saturday, I had a commitment. So I stopped over there,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when I met you. And
Wow.
she indicated that you were quite an accomplished pianist.
And
Yeah.
her as well.
Yes.
In fact,
Oh,
she used
indeed.
to date Horace Silver,
Oh, yeah.
and she played Horace's music.
Oh, yes. She
Played
could
it.
play it
Not no-
note for note. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we had a great time in the 60s. The 60s, I think, were akin to, that decade of the 60s was probably akin to the decade of the 20s that our parents spoke about so often.
I'm going to jump to question number 8. Okay, Margaret, would you take the first one? Do you remember This is a Clean Block City of Philadelphia campaign and program? And do you feel that an updated version could be beneficial and relevant initiative in this day and time as a possible positive aid to help bring about a better future in this municipality for us all?
I agree with that statement, Alfie, but when you look at neighborhoods today, they're vastly different than the neighborhoods we were accustomed to coming up. There was a cohesiveness, a unity in the old neighborhoods. Everyone took pride in their property, and the neighbors knew one another. As I indicated earlier, your neighbors were an extension of your extended family. Many people now don't know their neighbors that live next door to them, whether it's in a single-family dwelling or an apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
And we did have clean blocks. The majority of neighborhoods had a clean block committee with a captain. Block parties were something to look forward to in the summertime, or even cookouts. Our neighbor in the 1950s had one of the first neighbors to have a television, and he would show movies out on the street for the children. And it was a beautiful time. So vastly different than today. Everyone knew one another. Everyone looked out for one another. There was a kinship there. And that's sorely needed today, in my view.
I agree. Mr. Lacy?
Yes. I remember distinctly all of us on Saturdays would go out. We would scrub our steps. That was a must do, especially before the allowance thing. Scrub the steps.
allowance program.
Scrub the steps.
Entrepreneurship.
Scrub the steps. And as a matter of fact, we even painted white the curbs. And with a stencil would have your address in white.
I remember that.
In front of the house.
The number, yeah. I remember that.
Now I want to move into let me see, I was married I want to move into 82.
Okay.
I had just bought my first house up in Mount Airy, and my mother called me, and she said, "Wendy, I need you to get down here quick. Something's wrong with your father." Now I'm driving all the way down the west from Mount Airy to with my pajamas on, by the way. I thought it was a crisis. My father was planting bushes on all the neighbors' lawns, all of them. He had rented a truck. He was planting bushes. So I stopped my car at about the fifth house where he was doing his latest planting. And he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, Mom called me. She said that something was wrong. Something was wrong with you." And he said, "No, actually, there's something wrong with you. You need to be home with your wife and children." I said, don't you think that's kind of dangerous, impeding on other people's property without their permission to plant bushes? And he said, like I said, you need to go home. And this is the truth. That year, they won the cleanest block in Philadelphia. They won the cleanest block in Philadelphia. And I think, and I get a little, how can I say, I'm welling up.
Okay.
Because when I think of the value and how close our neighborhood, see, this wasn't our block.
Mm-hmm.
People from blocks around knew other families.
Mm-hmm.
So you could barely get away with doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
One affair where I met you, no, actually I met you maybe before that.
Mm-hmm.
St. Thomas used to have the acolyte dances.
52nd in Paris.
Right, that's when it was at 52nd in Paris, and we look forward to that. That was the thing. And there were a lot of community affairs. I remember, well, it was called the Capitol later, but the Apollo movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was a meeting place for all the kids at the matinee. But then it came the gang war era, where it was Hoop Street, Lansdowne Avenue, down the bottom.
Wilton Street. And,
Well, yeah, exactly. So as far as the clean block, I think that kind of, it almost phased out with the neighbors. And that's when it became known as the hood. Because without neighbors, that's all that's left is a hood.
So do you think that this updated, of this same kind of concept
Oh, sure, right
could
now.
work into,
I
sit down and
think it's a-
strategize and, input?
I think it's a complete 180 because it's the same values that goes into taking pride in where you live, looking out for your neighbors, shoveling snow for your neighbors when they're not able to.
Take your hat off when you get in the house.
I just did. Things of that nature. But sure, I live in a part of West Germantown where it's pretty, but there hardly any children there now, and it's just older people, and I still just take care of what I need to take care of, and but as far as on the collective for the younger people, Yeah, I think not only is it gives you something to do, first of all. And then when you take pride in what you're doing, then other people look at you and they begin to admire that and they'll do it too. So it's like a trickle down effect.
Neighborhood pride.
Neighborhood pride, right. And since we live in black neighborhoods, it's an extension of black pride.
Okay. I have a question.
I'd like to add
Oh,
something
go
to
ahead.
that. In our neighborhood, in the 50s and
And
early
you lived
60s,
where? And you lived where?
I lived on the 5900 block of Summer Street between Race and Vine. Really? Are you?
That's where I seen you.
I was 5934. 5934 Summer Street. Well, we got 3 papers. Inquirer in the morning, Bulletin in the evening, Tribune on Tuesdays and Fridays, in addition to plenty of magazines. But it was a time when we had many professionals in our neighborhood. Thank God for integration, but I must say integration did hurt us. We had 2 black pharmacists. Do you remember Bounds at 59th and Race? We had Howells at 58th and Race. We had black cleaners. We had black store owners. We had a black dentist. Black hair salons.
Shoe repair.
Shoe repair. We were a community unto ourselves. And then that changed so swiftly in the 1960s.
Another question. Wendy, did your family attend church? No. Did you attend Philadelphia schools, public, parochial, or private?
Will you go first?
Yes, sir.
I went to Catholic school from 1st grade to 12th grade. Something I think is very significant about that, because I went to Our Lady of Victory at 54th and Vine, but I wasn't allowed to be baptized there. I had to be baptized at St. Ignatius, which was an all-black parish, all-black school. By the time I got to 1st grade, once it was almost like reliving my block over again. It was like 5 of us. Matter of fact, some of our Jimmy Dion was in 1st grade with me. Greg Naylor was in 1st grade with me, and the rest were many white children. By the time I got to the 4th grade, there were no white children. I had to learn the Mass in Latin during that time, and I mean, I was proud to be an altar boy, and Catholic education was very strict. It was very strict, and I did experience being approached by one of the priests in the confessional with a leading question. If anybody knows my father, I came home and told him. They transferred that priest to another parish. And I mean, because of threats. But they weren't threats with my father, they were promises. Academically, Catholic school was excellent. It was excellent. By the time I got to high school, that's when I really experienced firsthand prejudice. There was, out of a class of 500 freshmen, only 6 of us graduated. 6. And these are South Side, North Side. There's only 2 Catholic high schools in West Philly, St. Tommy Moore and West Catholic.
West Catholic boys and
For
girls.
For boys, right. Well, now it's boys and girls. As a matter of fact, it's called West Catholic Preparatory School. Um, tell you a lot of. Well, to make a long story short, in in the summer after I graduated, which is in 1964, I became Muslim. I became Muslim because of a lot of it, because of a lot of the hypocrisy that I saw, a lot of other things that I considered just not right, just not right. And you know, I could do a whole book on Catholic school education, but I'm a product of that. I'm a product of the street. I'm a product of. I'm a kind of multifaceted guy. So, however you want to take that. I'll turn it back over to you, Alfie.
Okay. Margaret?
I attended Commodore John Barry Elementary, Neighborhood School, William L. Sayre Junior High School, and West is the best. West Philly High.
She's a speed girl. Well, the speed boys.
I will say this, the majority of our teachers in elementary school were white, but they were very dedicated to their profession. And we were quite nurtured by the majority of our teachers there. When I got to 6th grade, I had an outstanding black man as a teacher, Bertram Sneed, who then went on to head the Get Set section of public education here in Philadelphia. Sayre Junior High afforded us an excellent education. We had town hall meetings that prepared us for local government. The teachers were superior, and we welcomed and were so pleased to have so many teachers that looked like us at that level. West Philadelphia, oh, and by the way, Sayre Junior High at that time, it was a South Side school. That's when I really became acquainted with this gang situation, because the South Side ran that school. From the North Side, but I made friends. And it was quite an experience. Excellent education there. West Philadelphia High School continued meeting and making friends from different sections of the city, from North Philadelphia, South Philadelphia, and to this day we have remained friends. And I graduated in '64, June of '64. So the counselors weren't that good, but we were determined that we were going to do something with our lives, even if we were told, oh, you're not college material.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Been there.
So many of us were told that. And well, maybe you can be a secretary. I don't want to be a secretary. Yeah. So we were determined. We had that feistiness in us. And I think that was instilled in us from our forebears, our grandparents. I was very fortunate to have grandparents on both sides. My dad was born and raised right here in Philadelphia, lived several doors away from the old Mercy Douglas Hospital at 50th and Woodland, attended West Philadelphia High School. We were just very fortunate. And we had our great-grandparents on both sides, Daddy's side and Mama's side. And we were fortunate to meet my great-great-grandfather, who was my great-grandfather's father.
Wow.
So I thought everyone had that, really, until I got to high school and, met various people. But those memories give me so much comfort today, because unfortunately they're not here. But I still am embraced by those warm memories.